Hello, everyone. My name is Zarel, and this is the story of a Christmas Eve I will never forget. It was the night my family decided to cut me out of their will, and in that moment, I realized I no longer had a place in their lives. But as you'll see, sometimes a new beginning comes from decisions you least expect. At the time, I wasn't prepared. Standing in the living room, holding the heavy envelope in my hands, I knew this Christmas wouldn't be a joyful one. The fire in the fireplace flickered. The Christmas tree lights twinkled, but they felt like nothing more than a cruel mockery. The familiar warmth of family was missing, replaced with something cold and indifferent. "Are you going to open it?" Michaela's voice cut through the tension. She was perched on the arm of Mom's favorite chair, the diamond bracelet they had given her earlier flashing in the light. It felt so out of place, like she was playing dress up while the real family drama unfolded around her. I carefully broke the seal, the paper inside heavy with something more than just ink. As I read the words, they hit me like a punch to the gut. "You are hereby removed from the will." I read it over and over, but the meaning didn't change. They had cut me out completely. My voice, surprisingly steady, broke the silence. "You're cutting me out of the will completely?" I asked, the disbelief clear in my tone. Mom, sitting beside Vanessa, didn't even look up from her wine glass. "It's for the best, dear," she said dismissively, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "You've made your choices, and we've made ours." "Choices?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean starting my own business instead of joining the family bakery?" Dad's voice dripped with disdain. "We spent a fortune on your education, and you want to spend your life baking cupcakes?" "They're not just cupcakes, Dad," I said, my voice gaining strength. "It's my dream." "Dreams don't pay the bills," he cut in, his tone sharp. Michaela's smirk grew wider, her arrogance spilling over. "Don't be dramatic, Zarel. You knew this was coming. What did you expect?" I folded the paper carefully, my hands trembling. The Christmas tree lights reflected off the glossy paper, casting dancing shadows on the walls. It reminded me of childhood moments, moments when I still believed in family, when I still thought they cared. "Actually," I stood up, smoothing my dress, "I expected better from you. Silly me." "Where are you going?" Dad demanded, his voice thick with frustration. "We haven't even had dinner yet." "I've lost my appetite," I said quietly, reaching for my purse. I paused at the door and turned to face them. "You think you're punishing me, but you're punishing yourselves more than you realize." Michaela raised an eyebrow, confusion in her voice. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Merry Christmas," I said, walking out the door. The heavy oak door closed behind me with a satisfying thud, cutting off the last thread that connected me to that life. Outside, the snow fell softly, muffling the sounds of Christmas carols drifting from neighboring homes. I pulled out my phone and dialed Natasha's number, my fingers surprisingly steady. "Yeah, it's done. They did exactly what we expected," I said, a small, knowing smile tugging at my lips. As I made my way to the car, the crunch of snow beneath my boots felt strangely liberating. I'm better than okay, and it's time to put the plan into motion. 3 months had passed since that cold Christmas Eve, and with each passing day, my resolve grew stronger. The sting of being disinherited still lingered, but it was no longer a source of pain. It had become my fuel. As I looked around the lakeside vacation house, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. This house, abandoned and forgotten by my family, would now be the cornerstone of my future. I stood in the musty living room, my fingers running along the dusty woodwork, the smell of old pine and stale air hanging in the space. It felt like a time capsule, a place frozen in time, like the family I had once known. But now, it was mine, and with it came an opportunity I wasn't going to let slip away. Natasha stood beside me, whistling low as she took in the surroundings. "Your dad put it in your name for tax purposes, and now you're going to sell it? Just like that?" I nodded, a smile tugging at my lips. "Yeah, it's mine, and now it's going to help me build my future." The house had been sitting unused for years. My family had all but forgotten about it, just like they had forgotten about me and my dreams. To them, this place was just another asset to be ignored or discarded. To me, it was the chance I'd been waiting for. "Do you have any idea what this place is worth?" Natasha asked, her voice full of disbelief as she stared out at the lake, the view stunning despite the dust and decay inside. I pulled out my phone and showed her the realtor's estimate. Her eyes widened as she processed the number. Holy, Zarel, this could fund everything. You could open your bakery and have enough left over to really set yourself up. I felt the weight of it. The house wasn't just a physical space, it was a symbol of everything I had been working toward. It wasn't just a sale, it was a turning point. The money from this sale would fuel Dreamweaver, the bakery I'd been dreaming of for years, and finally give me the independence I had been craving. I was done waiting for permission. I was going to make this happen on my own terms. We're doing this, I said with confidence, the feeling of taking control over my life overwhelming. We sell the house, and then we build the bakery. This is where it all starts. The paperwork went smoothly, and the house was sold within a month. The funds were quickly transferred, and I immediately set the wheels in motion. Natasha was my partner in this, and together we found a location downtown, a prime spot for a business with heavy foot traffic and a lot of potential. The renovations began almost immediately. The space was rough around the edges, but I could see the possibilities. I hired a contractor, picked out equipment, and started experimenting with recipes in my kitchen at home. Every moment felt like a victory. Do you realize this is happening? Natasha asked one evening as we sat in the empty storefront, looking over plans for the space. This isn't just a pipe dream anymore. You're actually making it real. I'm making it real, I repeated, as though I was still trying to convince myself. But deep down, I knew this was my moment. I had everything I needed: determination, the right resources, and the fire to prove everyone wrong. The first day of opening Dreamweaver Bakery, I could hardly believe it. I'd done it. There were customers lined up, a mix of curiosity and genuine excitement on their faces. As the day went on, I realized that this wasn't just about pastries. It was about proving something. It was about showing that my dream, the one that had been mocked and discarded by my family, was real and thriving. I worked the counter myself that day, greeting customers, answering questions, and making sure everything was running smoothly. The smell of freshly baked goods filled the air: red velvet cakes, lavender honey cupcakes, rich chocolate tarts. And as I watched people leave the shop with boxes full of treats, I felt a sense of pride I hadn't experienced in years. A few weeks into the business, I received a call that I wasn't expecting. It was Michaela. The tone of her voice was filled with something I hadn't heard in years: condescension and thinly veiled criticism. "Zarel," she said, "I hear your little bakery is doing well. Is it true? You've really gone in and opened it?" I could almost hear the smirk in her voice. "Yes, Michaela," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's true, I've opened Dreamweaver, and it's doing just fine." She let out a disbelieving laugh. "Well, good for you. But don't come crying to us when it fails. We all know it's just a hobby, not a real business." I felt a surge of satisfaction. "Time will tell," I said with a grin. "But for now, I'm doing just fine." That conversation, while laced with disdain, only confirmed what I already knew. Michaela and the rest of my family still underestimated me. They still thought of me as the little girl who didn't know what she was doing. But this bakery, Dreamweaver, was more than just a business. It was my declaration of independence. As the weeks went by, the bakery continued to grow. Word spread quickly, and soon I was getting regulars. People who loved the pastries, the atmosphere, and the sense of community I was building. It was everything I had envisioned. It was everything I wanted, and more. The success of Dreamweaver was undeniable. I watched with satisfaction as the line outside my bakery grew longer each day, as people talked about it in the streets, on social media, and in the local news. This was no longer just a small dream. It had become a landmark in the downtown area. But as I basked in the glory of my success, my family's world was unraveling. The firm, the family business they had worked so hard to build, was crumbling. One morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Michaela. "Mom and Dad are worried about you. They want to talk." I shook my head, almost laughing. Now, when everything was going my way, they wanted to talk? After years of dismissing me, now they needed me. I texted back. "They were the ones who disowned me, remember? I'm not the one who needs to talk." But curiosity gnawed at me. What did they want now? They hadn't cared about me or my business when I was struggling. Now, when I was on the brink of success, they needed me. The irony wasn't lost on me. A few days later, they showed up at Dreamweaver Bakery. I didn't expect an apology, but there they were, Mom and Dad, standing awkwardly in my bustling cafe, trying to hide their discomfort. I glanced up from behind the counter and saw them. Mom's perfect facade had cracked. She was no longer the unapproachable matriarch I had grown up with. And Dad, well, his usual arrogance had faded. "Zurl?" Mom said softly, her voice almost unrecognizable. "We've made mistakes. Serious mistakes." I raised an eyebrow. "Like disowning me?" Dad cleared his throat. "Yes, but we're here because we need your help." I folded my arms, leaning against the counter. "Help? After everything?" "We need a partner," Dad said, his voice gravelly. "We're struggling, and you're the only one who can help us." I stared at them, my gaze hardening. "So now you want me to save you? After you threw me out? After you dismissed everything I ever wanted?" "We've been wrong," Mom said, her voice quiet now, almost pleading. I felt a wave of bitterness. "Funny how karma works," I muttered. Taking the partnership offer they had given me, I tore it in half, watching the pieces fall to the floor. "You can't just erase what you did. I'm not your backup plan." The room fell silent, and in that silence, I realized something. I had already won. I didn't need to prove myself to them anymore. I had built this bakery from the ground up, and it was thriving. I had my own empire now. As my family walked out of the bakery, heads hung low, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I had done it. They had failed to see my potential, but now they had no choice but to watch from the sidelines. The next few months were a whirlwind. My bakery continued to grow, and word of its success spread. People from all over came to try my pastries, and I began to think about the next steps, how to expand, how to invest in the future. One day, Michaela texted me again. "I've been thinking about what you said. I want to work for you. Teach me what you've learned." I was taken aback. Michaela, my sister who had once looked down on everything I did, was now asking to work for me? The tables had turned. I met her at the bakery the next day. She was different, humble, tired, and determined to learn. It felt like the start of something new. "You want to work for me?" I asked, studying her face for any sign of manipulation. "I want to learn," she said, her voice steady. "I want to learn what it takes to really work for something." I handed her an apron. "Start at the bottom," I said, watching her nod. "We'll see if you're ready for the next step." And just like that, the dynamic had shifted. Michaela was no longer the golden child of the family, the one who could do no wrong. Now she was learning the same lessons I had learned the hard way. Months later, Dreamweaver was more than just a bakery. It had become a symbol of everything I had fought for, the independence I had claimed, the success I had earned, and the family that had been forced to watch me grow. Success isn't just about building something from nothing. It's about proving to everyone who doubted you, including yourself, that you were always capable. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't in proving others wrong. It's in watching them realize what they've lost and knowing that, in the end, you're the one who came out on top.